The hidden goddess Barbelow in Revelation. Part 4 of 5 parts. Scene 1. Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, 3 hidden Gnostics, visited often by Jesus. And about the gospel personal history behind the story of the woman of Samaria, in which Jesus asks for a drink from this woman by Jacob's well. The secret history shows that this was not a drink of water Jesus was asking for, but instead the communion cup of grape juice wine that the Essenes drank as part of their holy meal. John 4:6. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being weary with his journey the 3 kilometers, walked from Cribbet Mason in the stifling heat along the western shore of the Dead Sea, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour, 11:55 a.m., time for an Essene holy meal. 7. There cometh a woman of Samaria, Martha, sister of Mary and Lazarus, Lazarus being Simon Magus, a Samaritan priest and leader of Gnostic Christian to draw water. She was also an Essene deaconess, and by Herodian rules could and did offer Jesus the holy bread and wine of the Eucharist. 7b. Jesus said unto her, Give me to drink. Imagine that. You Catholic women who have been denied ordination as priests and the right to offer men the Eucharist all those many centuries of the Dark and Middle Ages, Jesus himself asking for and receiving the communion wine, the symbolic blood of Christ from a woman he would remind 5 minutes later that she had had 5 husbands, and was at that moment in time living with a man who was not her husband. Now there's a real Jesus. Scene 2. The hidden goddess Barbelow in Revelation. The hidden behind-the-scenes author of Revelation is Jesus himself. Revelation 1:1. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him, to shew unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. 3. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, for the time is at hand. 7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, amen. Part of this wailing will be by those who have deprived BetterHelp wisdom of her say in the world's affairs for about 2,000 years. This is hidden in the background of Revelation, beginning with Red. 12:1. The classic description of wisdom as Barbelow in Gnostic literature. Revelation 12:1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. 2. And she being with child cried, traveling in birth, and pain to be delivered. 5. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Revelation 12:6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. In years that would end in about the period of 1200 to 1380. WIKIPEDI 8. The Renaissance of the 12th century was a period of many changes at the outset of the High Middle Ages. It included social, political, and economic transformations, and an intellectual revitalization of Western Europe with strong philosophical and scientific roots. These changes paved the way for later achievements such as the literary and artistic movement of the Italian Renaissance in the 15th century and the scientific developments of the 17th century. However, wisdom as BetterHelp was still pretty well hidden in the wilderness during this period, as pictured here. Revelation 12:9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. 16. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. When Jesus and John, the witnesses of the fate of BetterHelp in the wilderness, see her next, they describe what they see in Revelation chapter 17. Revelation 17:1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore in another Sumerian goddess again that sitteth on many waters. 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Inanna was well known in the Sumerian god stories for cohabiting with her kings, who were made to be her compulsory boy toys. To thee and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, where wisdom as Barbelow has been hidden for many centuries, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. 5. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the martyrs of Jesus, and when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Then comes the ending of Barbelo's long stay in the wilderness, and her adventures as a harlot with the kings of the earth. And in Revelation 19:7-8 she is transformed back into a virgin bride for the King of Kings. Revelation 19:7 Let us be glad and rejoice, and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. 8. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of saints. 9. And he said unto me, Write, Blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. Myth of Simon and Helen. Justin and Irenaeus are the first to recount the myth of Simon and Helen, which became the center of Simonian doctrine. Epiphanius of Salamis also makes Simon speak in the first person in several places in his Panarion, and the inference is that he is quoting from a version of it, though perhaps not verbatim. In the beginning God had his first thought, his Enoia, which was female, and that thought was to create the angels. The first thought then descended into the lower regions and created the angels. But the angels rebelled against her out of jealousy and created the world as her prison, imprisoning her in a female body. Thereafter, she was reincarnated many times, each time being shamed. Her many reincarnations included Helen of Troy, among others, and she finally was reincarnated as Helen, a slave and prostitute in the Phoenician city of Tyre. God then descended in the form of Simon Magus, to rescue his Enoia, and to confer salvation upon men through knowledge of himself. And on her account, he says, Did I come down, for this is that which is written in the Gospel, the lost sheep. For as the angels were mismanaging the world, going to their individual lust for rule, he had come to set things straight, and had ascended under a changed form, likening himself to the principalities and powers through whom he passed, so that among men he appeared as a man, though he was not a man, and what thought to have suffered him do it, though he had not suffered. But in each heaven I changed my form, says he, in accordance with the form of those who were in each heaven, that I might escape the notice of my angelic powers and come down to the thought, who is none other than her who is also called Prunikos and Holy Ghost, through whom I created the angels, while the angels created the world and men. But the prophets had delivered their prophecies under the inspiration of the world-creating angels, wherefore those who had their hope in him and in Helen minded them no more, and, as being free, did what they pleased. For men were saved according to his grace, but not according to just works. For works were not just by nature, but only by convention, in accordance with the enactments of the world-creating angels, who by precepts of this kind sought to bring men into slavery. Wherefore he promised that the world should be dissolved, and that those who were his should be freed from the dominion of the world creators. In this account of Simon there is a large portion common to almost all forms of Gnostic myths, together with something special to this form. They have in common the place in the work of creation assigned to the female principle, the conception of the deity, the ignorance of the rulers of this lower world with regard to the supreme power, the descent of the female Sophia into the lower regions, and her inability to return. Special to the Simonian tale is the identification of Simon himself with the supreme, and of his consort Helena with the female principle. The rape of Eve was Adam's sister. Eve's daughters. Freed at last. The rape of Eve was the daughter of the creator god Enki and married her brother Adam. Up until the time that mankind was created, about 300,000 years ago according to the records found recorded in cuneiform writing on permanent brick tablets, and in some cases illustrated with pictures carved in stone, the rulers of earth were gods, not men. One of the gods, Enlil by name, was apparently satisfied to keep it that way. But the downside was that the gods had to do all the work, including the very hard labor of mining for gold. Gold that was necessary to heal the failing atmosphere of the home planet of these gods, which they named Nibiru originally, but later changed to Marduk when that god retained ascendancy. Technically speaking, these gods were astronauts, using a highly developed technology to travel through space from planet to planet. The seventh tablet. The Lost Book of Enki, page 151. Compiled and edited by Zechariah Sitchin. To the Absud Africa away from En, let them be expelled. So did an the command decree, from the En to the Abzu Adamu and Tiamat were expelled. In an enclosure among the trees Enki them placed, to know each other he left them. With joy did Enki see what Nishzida had done come to be, with child Tiamat was frolicking. In came the birth-giving to watch, the son and a daughter, twins, to the earth beings were born. With wonderment did Enma and Enki watch the newborns. How they grew and developed was a marvel. Days were as months, months to earth years accumulated. By the time Adamu and Tiamat had other sons and daughters, the first ones were by themselves procreating. Before one shard of Nibiru 3,600 years had passed, the earthlings were proliferating. With understanding were the primitive workers in doubt of commandments they were comprehending. To be with the Anunnaki they were eager, for food rations they toiled well, of heat and dust they did not complain. Of back-breaking they did not grumble, of the hardships of work the Anunnaki of the Agsud were relieved. The vital gold to Nibiru was coming. Nibiru's atmosphere was slowly healing. According to Zechariah Sitchin's interpretation of the ancient texts, subject also to what he has learned in more recent studies from these and other sources, this proliferation of the earliest humans, called the atom small a in Genesis, occurred about 250,000 years ago. These were very primitive creatures, not really comparable with modern Homo sapiens sapiens. It was because of another more personal, more intimate, and perhaps less ethical encounter of Lord Enki with two earthling glasses later called dawn and dusk that fully modern civilized man had its origins. The seduction of dawn and dusk. The Lost Book of Enki, page 166. For 7 shards 25,200 years the Anunnaki's lot was greatly eased, diminished was their discontent by the proliferation of the earthlings. What by itself was growing for all insufficient was, in 3 more shards 10,800 years of fish and fowl there was of shortage. What by itself grows Anunnaki and earthlings did not satiate. In his heart, Enki, a new undertaking was scheming, to create the civilized mankind. In his heart he conceived grains that are sown by them to be cultivated, ewes that become sheep let them shepherd. In his heart Enki, a new undertaking was scheming, how this to attain he contemplated. The primitive workers in the Absud he for his scheme observed, the earthlings in the Eden, in the cities and in the orchards he considered. What could for the tasks make them suited? What by the life essence has not been combined? The offspring of the earthlings he observed, an alarming matter he noticed, by their repeated copulations, back toward their wild forebears they were degraded. Enki in the marshlands looked about, on the rivers he sailed and observed. With him was only by the mud, his vizier, whose secrets kept. On the river's bank, bathing and frolicking earthlings he noticed, 2 females among them were wild with beauty, firm were their breasts. Their sight the phallus of Enki caused to water, a burning desire he had. Shall I not kiss the young one? Enki his vizier by the mud was asking. By the boat will hither row, kiss the young ones. By the mud Enki was saying. The boat there to I the mud directed, from the boat to dry land Enki stepped. A young one to him Enki called, the tree fruit she to him offered. Enki bent down, the young one he embraced, on her lips he kissed her, sweet were her lips, firm with ripeness were her breasts. Into her womb he poured his semen, intimating he knew her. Into her womb she took the holy semen, by the semen of the Lord Enki she was impregnated. The second young one to him Enki called, berries from the field she him offered. Enki bent down, the young one he embraced, on her lips he kissed her, sweet were her lips, firm with ripeness were her breasts. Into her womb he poured his semen, intimating he knew her. Into her womb she took the holy semen, by the semen of the Lord Enki she was impregnated. With the young one stayed, whether pregnancies come about ascertain. So was Enki to his vizier Izamud saying, Izamud by the young one sat down, by the fourth count their bulges appeared. By the 10th count, the 9th having been completed, the first young one squatted and birth gave, by her a male child was born, the second young one squatted and birth gave, by her a female child was born. At dawn and dusk, which a date the limit, on the same day the two were born, the gracious ones, dawn and dusk, thereafter in legends they were known. In the 93rd Shar the two, by Enki fathered, in the Evan were born. 93 Shars equals 3600 x 93 equals 334,800 birth years. Word of the births Izamud to Enki quickly brought. By the births Enki was ecstatic, whoever such a thing has ever known. Between Anunnaki and Earthling, conception was obtained, civilized man thy hath brought into being. Artists are sometimes known to present a picture quite unlike what the words of the Bible do. On our first picture on this page, Eve seems to be offering the fruit of knowing to the serpent, who's about to take a bite while Adam watches. And in the picture above, the face of a man in a tree is obviously trying to seduce another Eve while Eve is reaching for another piece of fruit. In the dawn and dusk story, both young women show their consent by offering Lord Enki fruit, the first from a tree, the second some berries. Then they allow Enki to kiss them on the lips without a struggle, and the rest rapidly follows. What so many have suspected in the Bible story is plainly described in the Mesopotamian story. Enki was really the father of civilized mankind in an intimate and biological way, not just a symbolic way. What the King James Bible hides by calling both the original much more primitive men, Adam literally red man, and the much later civilized man by exactly the same name easily verified by using Strong's Concordance, is that Adam of Genesis 2:1920 is not the Adam of Genesis 2:21 and 5:1. And indeed the Mesopotamian records show that more than 36,000 years passed between the creation of the two Adams, and that the second Adam was named Adapa and his sister's wife was named Tibi. To his vizier Izamud Enki instructions gave, a secret must mighty remain. Let the newborns by their mothers be suckled, thereafter into my household them bring. Among the bulrushes in reed baskets have I them found. Thus to all you will say. Obviously the Hebrews reused this story in their history of Moses. By their mothers were the newborns suckled and nurtured, to Enki's household in Eridu thereafter Izamud them brought. Among the bulrushes, in reed baskets, have I them found. So did Izamud to all say. Enki's wife to the foundlings a liking took, as her own children she raised them. Adapa, the foundling, the boy she called Tibi, one with life, the girl she named Tibi in Sumer and is roughly equivalent to Hava in Hebrew and Eve in English. Unlike all other earthling children, the two sons were slower to grow up than earthlings they were, much quicker in understanding they were, with intelligence they were endowed, of speaking with words capable they were. Beautiful and pleasant was the girl, with her hands she was greatly dexterous. Enki, the spouse of Enki, to Tibi took a liking, all manner of crafts she was her teaching. To Adapi Enki himself teachings gave, how to keep records he was him instructing. The achievements with bright Enki to Izamud was showing, the civilized man have I brought forth. To Izamud he was saying, a new kind of earthling from my seed has been created, in my image and after my likeness. From seed they food will grow, from ewes sheep they will shepherd. Anunnaki and earthlings henceforth shall be satiated. To his brother-in-law Enki word sent, from Nibruki to Eridu came. So here we have it, what I have been searching for to complete my daughters of each series and free them from the guilt Bible authors have saddled them with for perhaps 3,000 years. Eve's Sumerian name was Tibi, which means the same thing as Achadiate, her Hebrew name. She was indeed the mother of those vastly improved human beings who could speak in civilized languages, learn well, follow instructions, and do crafts such as sewing, pottery, artwork, etc. Her goddess godmother taught her to do such things, because her biological mother was much less intelligent than she was. She herself was not seduced by a superior being that looked like a serpent, but her mother was. You could call it statutory rape if you like, but the poor girl would have soon had children anyway, and by consenting to be made pregnant by a god, she vastly improved the human race. So U.S.C. married her brother. We've always assumed from the Bible stories that in the population that consisted of only one family, that this would have to be the case. And rules against incest only came into being thousands of years later. As for Eve breaking anybody's rules or laws, she didn't. The lie about Oedipus and TV's origin. The first evolution lie. In the wilderness, a new kind of earthling has come forth. To Enlil was Enki saying, quick of learning they are, knowledge and craft work to them can be taught. Let us from the Viru seeds that are sown bring down, let us from the Viru use lambs. That sheep become to earth delivered, let us the new breed of earthlings farming and shepherding teach, let Anunnaki and earthlings together satiated be. So was Enki to Enlil saying, akin to us Anunnaki in many ways, indeed they are. Enlil to his brother said, the wonder of wonders it is, in the wilderness by themselves to have come about. By the mud was summoned. Among the bulrushes in reed baskets I then found, he said. Enlil the matter with graveness pondered, with amazement his head he shook. Indeed a wonder of wonders it is, the new breed of earthling on earth has emerged, the civilized man has the earth itself brought forth, farming and shepherding, crafts and tool making he can be taught. So was Enlil to Enki saying, let us of the new breed to Anu word send. Of the new breed word to Anu on the Viru was beamed. Let seeds that can be sown, let use lambs. That sheep become, to earth be sent. So did Enki and Enlil to Anu the suggestion make. By civilized man let Anunnaki and earthlings become satiated. Anu the words heard, by the words he was amazed, that by life's essences one kind to another leads is not unheard of. To them words back he sent, that on earth a civilized man from the Adamu so quickly appeared, that is unheard of. For sowing and husbanding, great numbers are needed, perchance the beings to proliferate are unable. While the savants on the Viru the matter contemplated, in their due occurrences of import took place, Adapa intimating Didi knew, into her womb he poured his semen. There was conception, there was birth-giving, 2 twins, 2 brothers, Tidi gave birth. Word of the birth to Anu on the Viru was beamed, the 2 sons for conception are compatible, proliferation by them can occur. You almost know the names of Tidi's twins. One was A.A.N. The other Abba.L. Let seeds that are sown, use that sheep become, to earth be delivered, let on earth farming and shepherding begin, let us all be satiated. So did Enki and Enlil to Anu on the Viru say, let Tidi in every do remain, the newborns to suckle and nurture, let Adapa the earthling to Nibiru be brought. So did Anu his decision declare. That Anu wished to see this new earthling named Adapa that Enki had lied to him about, and wished to have him brought to Nibiru, the planet on which Anu the king of the gods lived himself seems evident from several Mesopotamian stories, but the stories are not consistent. And the excuse for this trip varies with the stories. I will here give you Sitchin's latest choice of the story he chooses to support. I'd interpret the picture seal impression picture above as supporting this trip, although such picture seals do not come with labels, and can, like the stories, mean whatever the viewer wishes them to mean. The figure on the left is dressed as a priest servant, and may be a Dapit, who served Lord Enki in this role. The 2 figures in the fish suits are astronauts, in this case Nergal and Dumuzi. The apparatus between them is an interesting depiction of a fishing boat or sky chariot of some sort. And above them in the winged circle is Anu on the planet Nibiru. Adapa, the first human astronaut. Mislead by more lights. Let Adapa the earthling to Nibiru be brought. So did Anu his decision declare. By the decision Enlil was not pleased. Whoever of this would have thought, that by a primitive worker fashioning, like us the being would become, with knowledge, endowed, between heaven and earth will travel. On Nibiru the waters of long life he will drink, the food of long life he will eat. Like one of us Anunnaki shall the one of earth become. So was an will to Enki and the other leaders, saying. By the decision of Anu, Enki too was not pleased. Sullen was his face after Anu had spoken. After Anu had spoken, with Anu his brother Enki agreed. Indeed, who of this would have thought? So to the others Enki did say. The brothers sat and contemplated, he in the with them was also deliberating. The command of Anu cannot be avoided. To them she said, let Adapa by our young ones to Nibiru be accompanied, his fright to diminish, to Anu things he explained. So did Enki to the others say, let Nishzida and Dumuzi his companions be, by the way, Nibiru for the first time with their eyes also see. By Ninba was the suggestion they heard, our young ones, on earth born, of Nibiru are forgetting, its life cycles by those of earth are overwhelmed, let the two sons of Enki, as yet unmarried, to Nibiru also travel, perchance brides for themselves they shall find. When the next celestial chamber from Nibiru did arrive in Sipper, Ilabrat, the vizier of Anu, from the chamber stepped off. I have come to fetch the earthling of Dapa. So to the leaders he said. The leaders to Ilabrat of Dapa presented Tibi and her sons to him. They also showed, indeed, in our image and after our likeness they are. So did Ilabrat say. To Ilabrat Nishzida and Dumuzi, sons of Enki, were presented. To accompany Adapa on his journey they have been selected. To him Enki said, Anu his grandchildren to see will be pleased. So did Ilabrat say. To hear instructions, Enki Adapa to him summoned. To Adapa thus he said, Adapa, to Nibiru, the planet whence we have come, you will be going, before Anu our king you will come, to his majesty you will be presented, before him you shall bow. Speak only when asked, to questions short answers give. New clothing you will be given, the new garments put on. A bread not on earth they will give, the bread is death, do not eat. In a chalice an elixir to drink they too you will give, the elixir is death, do not drink. With Nishzida and Dumuzi my sons will journey, to their works hearken, and you shall lie. So did Enki Adapa instruct. This I shall remember. Adapa said. Zesh Ariasichan, in pages 175 through 217 relates, using the ancient Mesopotamian tablets as well as the Bible, how Lord Enlil and Enki's plan to make sure Adapa and his children civilized mankind did not attain eternal life worked out. Anu, king of the gods, was puzzled by Adapa's strange behavior, his refusal to eat or drink anything on Nibiru, until he read a secret tablet sent by Enki in which Enki revealed that he was Adapa's real father by an earthling mother, and that his plans for saving both gods and men on earth depended on Adapa's remaining an ordinary human. A rather familiar story to those of us who are Christians. Adapa and Nishzida returned immediately to earth with seeds to plant, while Dumuzi waited another sharp 3,600 years to return with pregnant ewes to start up animal husbandry. Adapa's son Cain was an accomplished farmer with a 3,600-year start on the animal husbandry. Abel began with the stock Dumuzi brought down from heaven. There was a winter-long argument over who was providing the greatest benefit to hungry humans and gods, and when water became short in supply in the area they both were working in, Abel drove the sheep across Cain's fields to drink up the dwindling water in his ditches. And Cain struck Abel repeatedly on the head with a large rock. For this murder, Cain was exiled, not executed, because his genetic bloodline was too valuable to extinguish. Finally he was killed by a falling rock while building the city. But not until he attended the deathbed gathering of Adapa's by then very large family. Adapa in the Mesopotamian history, although deprived of eternal life by Enki's lies and manipulations, still lived a lot longer than the second biblical Adam. The one whose name was capitalized and in Genesis 5:5 lived 930 years. Writes Sitchin, in the midst of the 93rd Shar was he born, by the end of the 108th he died. A long life for an earthling he had, the life cycle of Enki he did not have. 108 minus 94 and 1/2 equals 14 and 1/2 sharps. That's about 53,500 Earth years. Adapa was almost totally blind by the time he died, and at his request Nina, one of the Nibiru gods, was dispatched to fetch Cain in a skyship from a faraway part of Earth where Cain was then living, perhaps South America. Nishsida had altered Cain's genetic makeup so that Cain could not grow a beard, so that's how his blind father recognized him for his deathbed blessing. It appears to me this story was recycled by the Hebrews also, in the story of Isaac. It is my goal in this series of pages not to prove the Bible wrong between commas, but to fill in some details that the Bible's authors left out because they judged them unsuitable for those they saw as their target congregation or audience, and to reinterpret some symbolism and parables for the more modern and better educated group of readers.
BetterHelp? BetterHelp, in case you didn't know, BetterHelp is one of the best places online that you go to if you need a counselor or just someone to talk to. I know a lot of you guys out there, including myself, have struggled in the past, and in unfortunate situations, a lot of us still struggle to deal with that stuff. And it is where BetterHelp can, well, help. BetterHelp offers affordable online counseling. You can get access to licensed, trained and experienced trained psychologists, marriage and family therapists, clinical social workers, and board licensed professional counselors. So there won't be any shortage of people who can help and just talk to you about anything you're struggling with. All you got to do is go to BetterHelp by using the link in the description box, then answer a few questions. They match you with the counselor based on those questions, and then you're all set. Plus, if you end up being paired with a counselor that you don't like, you can always switch to another one who suits you best. So yeah, if you guys do decide to check out BetterHelp, make sure to use the link in the description box or the comment section down below, as it does support the channel. And by the way, I am in convalescence.